All right, here we go. It's that time. The Hutchinson Report podcast take of the week. Not what Oliver likes, certainly not what Leroy likes. What I like, what I thought was important in the news and the views and everything else, commentary, events of the day. And we give our little run and drive-by commentary. Okay, this is going to be extended, a Hutchinson Report podcast take of the week. Ginsburg, may she rest in peace. She was a great woman, a great jurist, a great SCOTUS, a supreme civil libertarian, a supreme fighter. I saw the film on Ginsburg. It did very well. A fighter. She can't be replaced. You know, I have to go back to Thurgood Marshall to find a jurist like that, and also William O. Douglas, too. And, you know, I'll give him his due, Chief Justice Earl Warren. They were fighters, they were civil libertarians, civil rights people. They pushed the envelope on legal jurisprudence in America, protecting and defending our rights and liberty. Ginsburg, front and center. History will be very kind to her, as it should be. The Supreme Court, Mitch McConnell couldn't wait for her bones to even be cold in the grave. Couldn't wait for him to say there's going to be a vote, Oliver, on the Supreme Court. We're going to have a vote. We've got about 40 days till the election, November 3rd. All right, let's go through a checklist of some of the fact and fiction about what McConnell can do and what the Democrats can do to push back. First of all, it is true. Trump can nominate, as we well know, that is the purview of the president, to nominate a SCOTUS justice. At that point in time, here's the way the process works. And by the way, he could actually make a recess appointment, too, if the Senate is not in session. Well, the Senate is in session. The Democrats, Leroy, they can call what they call a pro forma session, meaning that Congress isn't really in session, even though it is. This is where it gets a little tricky. It's in session, but it's not. Is and it isn't. So that's a legal parliamentarian maneuver, which they could do. Then here's the way the process goes. After a nominee, if they don't do that, Congress is in session, they can hold or they will hold an executive session to determine the process, how we'll lay this out. It usually takes 2 to 3 months. Remember that time frame, 2 to 3 months. It doesn't just happen overnight. After the executive session, after they lay out the ground rules, after they lay out exactly the schedule for the hearings, now, again, it's extended. Could be delays. There has to be a background check, and that's going to take time. Then the nominee, the senators can request a meeting, Leroy, individually with the nominee, the probe, to ask questions. So that takes time, too. Then what has to happen at that point in time is McConnell will have 2 to 3 months to essentially put all the pieces together. The Senate Judiciary Committee will have to have the hearings. It would be testimony. What can the Democrats do, even as the hearings happen, to delay it? Well, there are little tricks they can do. One, they can do a bit of lobbying, i.e. filibustering, within the time limits they have. In other words, let's say, Leroy, I have an hour. I can take my full hour. I can read Mary Had a Little Lamb for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Extend it. Then they can ask for more time for a background check to extend that 30 to 45-day period. Then they can also do something else. Then they can walk out. All Democrats on the committee can walk out and say, you cannot have this committee hearing. Why? Because you don't have a what, Leroy? A quorum. You have to have a certain number to have a quorum. They can boycott the hearing. Okay. Then what can happen is McConnell would step in at that point and say, change the rules and say, it would be a quorum of Leroy. 1. No, he can do that. He has the prerogative to do that. But the point is, it takes time. The biggest trump card, Ricky, I don't know if you have that quote again. The words of Mitch McConnell, 2016, when Barack Obama, then president, nominated Merrick Garland for the Supreme Court SCOTUS. McConnell was very clear. He said the people must have a voice, and an appointment should not be made until after an election is settled, i.e. the presidential election. We have Mitch McConnell saying that.
Within minutes, Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said no. Congress will wait until a newly elected...
Let's let the American people decide.
Here's Mitch. H, you hear him. Straight from the horse's mouth. Ricky, can you run that again? Can you run that again? It's not Earl making anything up. This is Mitch.
Let the American people decide.
Let the American people decide. And there was a second part to that. Not till after the election. Incidentally, A.H. Hoffman, do you know where Mitch McConnell got that from, that idea? He got it from Joe Biden. When Joe Biden was senator, decades earlier, Joe Biden on the Senate floor said the exact same thing. Different circumstances, but he said the exact same thing. There should not be an appointment during, when you're that close to an election. Not till after the election. A.H. Hoffman, you're doing the countdown. Every day, I believe we're down to, 37 days now, 38? Okay. Okay. So there you go. We're even under 35, really. And then after the weekend, we're down to about 1 month and counting. Now, here's where it gets tricky. The thinking is that November 3rd is the cutoff period. Leroy, that's not the case. Biden, if he wins, will not take office officially till January 21st. President Trump will still be president from November 3rd. He'll be a lame duck if he loses. He'll be president from November 3rd to January 21st. Actually, the window that McConnell has to work with is not that 35, 36 days, however many days. He's actually got all the way till January 21st. So that's where it gets even more scary. He's got plenty, well, I'm not going to say plenty of time, but he's got time. Much more time than November 3rd. See, everybody's thinking it'll be November 3rd. No, it's January 21st. Keep that date in mind. Okay, so you've got tricks, you've got procedural things, you've got time limits, you've got informational things that have to be done, you've got a lot of information on him or her that has to happen. And then there could be one other little twist to A.H. Hoffman. Here's a great what if. What if Trump, they're just diabolical enough to do this, and McConnell, how about this? A black, Hispanic, or a woman? Keep your eye on that one. Wouldn't be surprised to throw another monkey wrench to gum up the works. Wouldn't be surprised. There are a couple of Clarence Thomases out there. There are a couple of DeVoses out there on the female side. And we know that we have many conservative Hispanics out there. So anything is possible. All right. You've been listening to the Hutchinson Report podcast take of the week. Be right back.
The Hutchinson Report.
There will be major battles within the Senate, the House, Congress, and the White House, whoever the president is.
Your host, Earl Afari Hutchinson.
We got to cut this. We got to cut that. We got to raise taxes. Why? Because you've got to raise that money somewhere, and we know 1% corporate cronies, they're not going to pay their share.
Tune into the Hutchinson Report, Saturdays at 9 a.m.
Once again, it falls back on the shoulder of guess who? Joe and Jane, blue collar and poor person. There is no free lunch.
Right here on KPFK.